So welcome to AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Are you sick of it? Or are you still a little sick of it? We're going to cut through the noise. We're trying to try and cut through some of the hype. I have two perfect people here to introduce this panel. So I'm Avivah Wittenberg-Cox. I was here this morning. Perhaps some of you talked with me, and Lucy Kellaway. Now I'm back on one of my favorite topics, actually. I really like this topic. We've got Katrina Young and Adam Baldwin. I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly, but Katrina's going to focus a little bit more on individual uses of AI and how it can help and support particularly individual transitions. And Adam's going to focus a bit more on the implications for companies, what they might have to do, integrate, adapt, and if you want to work or are working inside an organization, what some of the impacts will be. But before I launch in with them, let's just get an idea of the room. So how many of you use AI extensively? Whoa, okay.
Whoa.
Okay, this is really interesting. How many of you use it or are meant to use it professionally? This is interesting too. Okay. How many of you use it personally?
Woohoo.
That's actually very reflective of the statistics. We know that about 70% of AI usage currently is personal and only about 30% is professional, which I'm sure Adam is going to have a few words about. So Katrina, give us the short take. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm hyperactive, if you want the truth. I'm an AI strategist. I am a part-time lecturer at UAL, and I work around ethical AI. I help people to start their own businesses and grow. And I also help graduates to get jobs in the market and reskill the workforce. I work with City of London upstairs. I'm on a digital workforce alongside Adam, and that's who I am. I better stop. Over to you, Adam.
Mine's much less exciting. I'm a commercial and technology lawyer by background, but as Katrina said, I've been working with the City of London for a number of years on the Women Pivoting to Digital task force. So a real topic close to my heart because it's touching a lot on AI technology and how there's going to be a lot of sort of career changes coming up for lots of people and trying to embrace that change specifically for women looking at technology careers.
Just another word. What is Women Pivoting into Digital? Who runs it and what does it do?
Yeah, so it was set up by the City of London about 2 years ago as a task force with the main aim of sort of connecting businesses, local authorities, charities with women that are interested in this pivot. I think as we'll probably go into in a lot more detail today, AI is still a very scary topic for a lot of people, and understanding how that may impact your current career, but also open up new opportunities for new careers is a challenge in itself. So the City of London put together this task force with this aim to try and sort of clear some of the mystique behind AI and tech careers and really open up many different avenues for women in particular.
They put on wonderful events. They put on webinars. Do visit them on the second floor and at least sign up to the webinar list or their mailing list because they put a lot of work. They're a hidden gem. I want to say that, as I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a consultant, and I joined them in December. They've been a great resource. I'm an SME, and usually corporates don't engage SMEs. My son is just started his second year of medical school. He's 16, and they gave him a cybersecurity placement. They're amazing. So do check them out.
Okay. I want to get a mood read of the room because I understand a lot of us here are not using AI so much. So I'm just wondering, is the general attitude fear or curiosity? Who would lean towards fear? AI, its implications, its consequences on us, our jobs, our society. Okay, who would lean towards curiosity? This could be really cool. Okay.
We like.
You can definitely do both. I was just looking at which might be the sort of priority thing. All right. Now, Katrina, you talk a lot about the human in the loop and reprogramming the algorithm. So what does that look like in practice for somebody who might not be using it yet? And what is the algorithm and why do we need to reprogram?
So most platforms, AI platforms, are built on a pre-programmed program, which means that it is biased against you, but usually biased against the world. And that is happening. You can just do a general Google research and find out that AI is built as a general purpose tool. That means it's not built for you, my gender, my age, my role. So when you open a platform, you should program it and reset those factory settings. It's as simple as that. And most people don't approach AI from that perspective so that it works for them. So I just did a talk and I spoke about asking AI what I look like. And based on the hyperactivity of my my chat, it thought that I was a young male. And therefore the recommendations and the outputs that it was giving me were inaccurate. So by resetting your algorithm, you're giving yourself more broader, more scope, more opportunity. And no one teaches us that. And so it's really important that I know I'm terrible. I don't know if I ever do read instructions for anything. I really want to say that actually with AI, we should go to the instructions and look at the settings. Another thing, they give us a lot for free in AI. Resetting the algorithm means that we unselect that they can use our personal data. Data is a huge part that Adam will look at, governance and compliance, but just use it as though it's a freebie. They probably want to do something with it. So I don't want to give it too much of my information. So I tend to anonymize my name, any personal data or reference. And if I'm working on it with clients, if you are using AI, it's pertinent to share that you are using this in your process, and always add in a disclaimer because AI can lie. So resetting that algorithm is setting your own rule book and not using it for general purpose, which a lot of us are doing.
Yeah, I mean, and really my experience with a lot of coaching clients is AI is potentially one of the greatest midlife career transition tools and coaches that has ever existed. And we're kind of, I would think, communally lucky to be at our age and stage and wanting to pivot at the moment that all this is coming online, because it's an extraordinary resource. But I want to, Katrina, I want you to dig in. I don't know how esoteric or not this is. What does it mean to train your, what does it mean to train your AI? And even people are like naming their AI. So they're talking to their trusty friend, manager, CEO, whatever they call it.
When you use AI for general purpose, most people are using it in a generative format. And so depending on your industry, market, or where you aspire to be, you are going to get very feral responses that sound like me when I've had a cocktail. It will just keep going. And so you don't want to do that. What you want to do is for it to be very targeted. And so one of the things I do is I will tell it, this is my industry. And I keep sharing this, that I had very innovative aspirations. I'm a futurist, so I'm always saying things that people kind of raise their eyebrows and like, okay. But I want to say in July, I had an idea of working in aerospace. I became a software engineer. I'm a pivoter. So I pivoted to become a software engineer 4 years ago. And when I did that again, I had looked and I was like, I really want to work in aerospace. I want to see more women that look like me in space. And so in July, I approached the UK Space Agency and said, look, I really think that actually tech is going to impact the planet. And I came up with a sustainability innovation. And they said, you know what? Yeah. Without AI as my feral co-pilot, I could not have done that. And that's because I brought a human in the loop and trained an algorithm to be a strategist, to think like me with my experience, things that I would have usually had to pay departments for. And from July to 2 weeks ago, I found someone willing to invest in that business. It could never have happened before. I've got so many no's, it couldn't. And so AI can take ideas, work as it can take research. Bringing a human in the loop is effectively giving it a role, being very targeted with the instructions and deciding that you are going to be in charge of the responses that come out. So, for instance, when it gives me a result, I say, yeah, that's terrible, or be specific, but getting very targeted, and actually it can become quite frustrating. I effectively try to keep breaking the algorithm. I will keep asking it expansive, more broader, or very niche questions. And you want to be targeted, bringing a human in the loop, just saying, give me this in a response of 5 bullets, or give me the 5 top people I should speak to, their name, emails, and LinkedIn profile. So being very targeted. And when I give classes, people often say, you just talk to it. And I'm like, yeah. Just talk to the algorithm as though it's a colleague. It is my co-pilot. I did just say upstairs, I spend far more time with AI than I do humans, which is terrible. But because, just as you said, I'm neurodivergent. A lot of the things had been very isolated. I get hired to generate ideas, and sometimes an individual would think, what's that? A lot of the instances I've had is that people think as them and not as you. And AI often, once trained in your tone and voice, starts to think like you. So it's a great, if you're feeling at this stage where you feel a bit disenchanted by the market, a reinvention career and not understanding, think outside the box and just open a chat and get started. I saw this lovely lady. I call people out. I'm so sorry I didn't start, but I saw you keep doing that, which means, you know how I see it. I'm like, oh, I'm it. Oh, what can I do now? And I literally just open the chat and think like I wish I could have always been. And honestly, AI has changed my life. To COVID, maybe going bust and having a business, a service-based business. I wanted to get investment, and all they told me is, you're not going to get investment as a service-based business. So AI opened that up. I said, what can I do? And so just explore and experiment and bring yourself in the loop. It's not a technical term. It's literally bringing yourself as a human to a computer algorithm. And that's it.
It is like you just recruited one of the smartest humans on the planet, but you have to educate them about everything you want them to do and be and how you do that. So I'm going to take a few questions before I move on to, I will get the mic around. I'm going to take 2 or 3 at once. So if anybody else has a question for Katrina, and maybe just before we take the question, what goes wrong? What have you seen go wrong when people start using AI for their career shift?
Yeah, so with career shifts, I spoke again, I gave an example, I keep using the same examples, but is that when you don't program the algorithm, it will presume. And for me, that was looking at roles and taking 20,000 off of those roles. And let's be honest, a lot of the algorithms are not systemically fair. And so just a tweak to a prompt that I gave it was, act as if the world is fair and only give me results based on the world being a fair place. And the results completely changed. So yeah.
Yeah, so never settle for the first answer.
And always validate. So I call this kind of ethical response, and just check, is this valid? Is this correct? A lot of times it says, oh, sorry. Actually, it's quite scary how often it says, and Adam, I'm sure you're going to hit on that.
Oh,
it's quite worrying.
It's quite interesting to add from a legal perspective. Obviously, a lot of lawyers are using ChatGPT to come up with legal arguments. And Kat talked about hallucinations. So this is where it produces information that sounds, for all intents and purposes, correct. And you wouldn't spot it as being incorrect necessarily. There's been quite a few cases where junior lawyers especially have trusted the output of their AI companion, and it has generated cases that do not exist. It's taken details from 2 or 3 cases, merged them together, come up with a case name, come up with a court, a title, a judge. It all looks legit, and they've been presented in front of courts, and only at the last minute someone thought to actually check, do these exist? So I think, yeah, there's lots of areas of professional application of these tools which are still being tried and tested, and which I think goes back to Kat's point of a human in the loop. I think this will probably be a trend today as we're talking through careers and impact, but I think we're still a long way off of humans being cut out for this completely, because the whole purpose of a human is to spot these things that look slightly incorrect or tweak it or manipulate it.
And validate those responses. Sorry, you've been holding the
Sorry.
mic.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When you said we all need to reset the algorithm,
Yes.
how do you do that? Are you just talking about the brief you give AI every time you ask it something, or is there some other thing we're meant to have done first?
So I'm really like this, and I do this a lot. And for me, it is literally in the title, resetting the algorithm. So the first thing is going into settings and making sure that the settings work for you. And the first thing is, as I said, if you want to share your data, that's fine. Then unselect that toggle that allows it to share your data. Resetting the algorithm, the first thanks for that question. The first thing that I do is say, who do you think I am? If you haven't used AI before, ask, oh, you have used it, apologies. You ask, what memory, give me a summary of the memory that you hold about me. It really annoys me because I tell it all the time. It keeps giving me like 21 years of experience. I'm like, I have told you, because I have built agents, and that means that when I quality assure, so if you're using AI a lot, do have an extra layer of just checking quality assurance, because some of it, as I said, it sounds so right, as Adam said. One of the things that I do, so one of the instructions I do is I try to tend, if I'm using ChatGPT and not Perplexity, to not take the link, because a member of my team always visits the links, but sometimes they're broken. And like it may generate and brainstorm and give you a completely dud URL. So under your algorithm, resetting it may be never ever present false or inaccurate data. That's changed it for me because my results mean it just doesn't ever give anything that's made up. Resetting the algorithm means having like a rule book for you, whether that's your career, that could be department keywords, uploading all your policies, your branding guides. What industry do you work in? So you're thinking of a pivot. Okay, so resetting the algorithm could be explorative. So you could act it to ask in a nature that's explorative. For me, I ask it to be pragmatic because I have a lot of ideas and it will literally implement all of them. And now it has a sarcastic filter that says, come on, Kat, you really want to do that? This is what it looks like. So if you reset that algorithm, it can even give you guidance and advice. It can bullet point. But the first thing before resetting is understanding what your rule book or your landscape looks like.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to pass on. Yep, one more here, and then we'll move.
This is a sort of general question. What does the panel think is worthwhile upskilling in? Like, for example, AI can code pretty well. So is there any point in me as an other languages learning to code in R or Python now? Or what, and also like what kind of roles will do you on the panel think will exist in like 5, 10, 15 years?
Why don't you start?
Yeah, no, I think
that's a good question.
It's a really good question actually, because, and it was funny, I was speaking with the others. There's a great infographic on the top of the stairs that Standard Life have put together, basically saying that AI is going to automate tasks, not jobs. And I think it's exactly as you're saying. Certain areas of computer coding have almost become redundant because the agents can kind of do it themselves.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say the job of a coder is completely gone.
No.
Certain tasks of their job will have gone, but their role will broaden as a result. So I think I'd be careful what skills you want to invest in. I mean, I think it's worth almost asking the chats themselves, where do you think I should be skilling? Because that's a great starting point to try and predict where it's worth investing your time. So yes, there may well be tasks that within 5-10 years no human will be doing, and therefore a skill becomes redundant.
As I listen, isn't this almost like we all have to learn what it is before we can see the future? So really what I heard you say is, and the question is, what do you do with this thing, and how do you you really need to learn how to prompt and design it to do what you want to do and understand what that is, what that isn't, which isn't, to her question, it's not really programming language, is it? It's much more prompt.
I think it's definitely more nuanced. What I learned is we have to understand now we're in a real evolving market. There's so many times that I'm like, I'm going to get an early night, and then someone's like, have you seen the new update? I'm like, oh, I'm going to be up again. I think your question needs some depth. Prompt engineering, when AI first came out, was a big one. And now I've just spent time depicting and unpacking a whole agent where someone said, but I only wanted this, because there was no human.
You got to explain what an agent. So
so an agent, yeah.
Agents are the cool new thing. Right?
Yeah. So agent.
Who has designed an agent? Used an agent? Okay.
Anyone? There you go. You know what an agent is.
One.
So as you,
Explain.
Yeah. So would you like to explain what an agent is? That would be great.
No pressure.
No pressure.
And some of them, so agents are like more specialized AI. So if ChatGPT is general or whatever, one of those, this is like particularly for research or benefits management. So somebody has worked, assigned this, like here's all the government, I'm a civil servant, or here's all the government guidance on how to do benefits management. Now make an agent so that can, if you put a business case in, what should the benefits that you need to manage be, that kind of stuff.
So you're right. And so I started AI in around 2017. Of course, it's been around for some time. I asked the same question. And at the time, what was the go was RPA. And I'd say still some people in the room are first movers. Still, even sitting here today, you go and explain to your member of your family what you've learned today. You're going to be that super clever person. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? So with this kind of market and where you are, I would say a projection of the skills of the role that you're looking for now could change in 6 months, 3 years. So the question actually, it's bringing human into the loop. That's when you say, what are my transferable skills now? Because that unlocks new roles. And so for me, in that agent role, that specialized AI, I had to go into that project and be a human in the loop, ask questions that this agent didn't do. It lacked critical thinking. It lacked understanding the next step. So that's where people and professionals like you in the room come in. So I don't believe that question is nuanced. I would ask, what does someone like me with these skills, with these roles, that seat, that wants a salary of, could look for? And that's when you unlock your opportunities.
So Adam, I gotta turn to you. We could go on and on, but
We could.
I was intrigued, as I think perhaps you were, how few people in the room used it so far professionally. And so the big debate is, is it even going to pay for itself, this whole AI? Corporates, or are they adopting it? What's the corporate view of how well have we integrated AI into?
I'll be honest, I'd say there's almost two views to it. I think the public view is that we're all big corporates have embraced this. They've invested heavily, changed their industry. This is all great, great, great. The cynic in me is the reality is slightly different, which I think is why, to Kat's point, actually, you could all still be early adopters. This is still very much in its infancy. And I think by just, using these tools in your personal life, getting comfortable with the idea of interacting with AI and generative AI in particular, you're going to be ahead of the curve. So definitely don't feel intimidated by perhaps the publicity around this, making it seem like we've missed the boat. Because, as I say, within a corporate environment, it's going slightly slower than perhaps companies would publicly state. And the reasons are interesting, because I think there was this initial massive wave of investment. I mean, in law, for example, there are many different sort of legal AI powered companies that have come up, and it's growing at a massive rate. But where we're finding now is early adoption was successful, but we're hitting the classic issues within business around, regulation, compliance, the ethical implications, the personnel. There's a massive skill deficit of people in this space. So I'd say it is definitely going to change a lot of large corporate industries, but there's still a lot to be done. And I think for the audience in the room, the interesting part is there's going to be a lot of change in careers and skill sets that are going to be valued. Jobs that we're having to sort of scope and hire for today just didn't exist 2-3 years ago.
Give us a few examples. So what are the new jobs that didn't exist? And
Well, it's funny because I've noticed the massive focus being on ethics.
Yeah.
And a lot of these sort of head of ethics, head of AI ethics roles that are starting to pop up now, again, didn't exist. Tools were seen as technology, and it was for technologists to own, operate, run, manage. But now, having seen some very high-profile examples of bias, of amplifying existing bias, be it gender, race, age, suddenly corporations have to take this seriously and actually create roles around applying ethics to how these tools are used. Obviously, there's been lots of development within the laws and regulations globally, and different regulators are taking a different approach to this. Interestingly, the EU, they've started to categorize AI tools on a sort of risk base, and depending on the risk classification, will restrict or enable companies to do certain activities. So again, we'll probably see a shift there, but as with all new technology, the profit and the real excitement is going to be on that sort of grey area, those slightly riskier tools that could make a massive, improvement in certain industry, but come with risk. And the risk is this ethical piece. As Kat said, these tools generate and process so much data, a lot of it personal data, which attracts a lot of risk. And so I think career-wise, that ethical area is something, a few years ago we wouldn't have even seen, but now poses a really interesting opportunity for those interested in that space with transferable skills.
so they generate so much data and so much energy. So maybe you want to, how do organizations, or how will they be balancing between, over controlling on innovation and putting in some kind of guardrails on climate usage, energy, data usage?
It's a really tough one because, as I say, we're in very early stages with a lot of the mass rollout of this technology, and companies will be working in different ways. Some will have made a decision very early on that they're using this technology, but it's for the low-hanging fruit within their organization. They're treating these technologies as operational efficiencies, cost reduction. Others will be slightly bolder and think this can generate new product offerings, new services, and that will be where it's difficult to figure out how heavy to invest, how wide to go out. Lots of companies, and I think for those of you that are in organizations of this size, it's worth exploring whether there's internal sandboxes, which will allow employees to sort of generate new ideas, to play with a safe set of data, to try all sorts of crazy stuff with zero risk. I'm seeing a lot of that in the industry at the moment. There may be sort of small spin-offs within big organizations that are allowing this sort of fast failure type idea where they can use a new product or service to just try some mad stuff. Strangely, I've seen it quite a bit in the insurance industry. So normally quite risk-averse industry. They're using a lot of sort of big data analytics to try and come up with new product offerings and see whether, if that was extrapolated, whether that could be something that could work.
I agree.
So let's just check how many here are working in companies versus working for yourself. Anybody in companies, in roles? So Adam, I just want to talk momentarily. What about jobs, employment? Is it going to create? You're talking about all the things it's going to create. Everybody else is talking about how much it's going to destroy. What angle are we on?
I think it's more evolution than revolution. I think obviously the headlines are all going to be robots taking our jobs. I don't know if you would have seen there was a potential product launch from Tesla around like a service, robot to be in your home, do the dishwasher, washing machine, all these kind of tasks. I think that may be one element, but as I say, I personally think we're still at the sort of evolution stage. Things will change. There will be a shift in the job market, but I'd sort of go back to my earlier point that it's tasks, not jobs, that will change, at least initially. And even that the statistics are quite interesting on the number of tasks that will be sort of fully automated. I think upstairs it was quoted around sort of 4 to 5%. I've seen similarly low figures that full-on job deletion just isn't really going to exist at this stage. It will be gradual, and you'll find people within their roles that tasks that are attributed to them will just change. And at the same time, they'll have new roles, new responsibilities. And the statistics seem to sort of back it up. I mean, the AI specific jobs have grown year on year. I think between 23 and 24, it increased by about 35% in the UK. And the University of Warwick did a study last year, actually, where they looked at smaller businesses, actually, a lot of SMEs, and asked the question: are you adopting AI in your business? What's the impact on recruitment? Current employee size? They found a quarter did actually have a slight reduction in headcount, a quarter increased, and 50% remained exactly the same. So whilst there may be shifts within specific industries, and there may be growth in some, contraction in another, the general picture seems to be actually people just staying in jobs, but moving either internally or their tasks just changing.
Some people refer to AI as the sort of new electricity.
Yeah.
I just find that a helpful metaphor. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. It was funny, actually. I was speaking with my wife last night to try and come up with a more practical example of sort of recent change in technology and how people anticipated like a crazy shift in employment, and it didn't actually turn out as anticipated. And we settled on the first ATM. She grew up in Enfield, and that was the first cash point in the world, I think. And at that time, people were saying, "Oh well, when ATMs come out, all banks will close. Why would you need a bank branch when there's a computer that does it?" The actual reverse happened at that time. Appreciate that now the banks are closing, but at that time, what they found, it reduced the operating cost of having a bank branch, because suddenly a lot of your banking activity could be automated. The bank tellers themselves pivoted their roles. Instead of just dispensing cash, they were advising on new products, new services, offering customer support. So actually, the number of bank branches and employees increased with this technology. And I think it is analogous to the rollout of AI. Yes, certain tasks will be replaced, but actually, it's going to open up a whole new environment of jobs that just didn't exist pre this technology.
Okay, questions. Anybody want to ask? Yes, at the back there. And anyone else? We'll take a couple. Who is it who has the phone? Yep, and then the lady here in the middle in orange.
Hi there. I work in the design sector. I'm a fashion designer, and I'm just interested on your views on how it will affect the creative industries, and will you still need as many humans doing the creative thinking part?
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
I mean, I think approaching from a lawyer's perspective, it's quite an interesting one, because one of the major downsides I've seen is a lot of these databases are frankly infringing copyright. You've seen various sort of generative AI tools in the creative side that, if you could put in a prompt, create an image to look like it's from The Simpsons, and it would do it perfectly. And this is the same problem with, be it fashion, to the arts. You can tell a lot of these tools to create things in the style of, and it's frankly copyright infringement, but the legal and regulatory framework just hasn't really caught up yet. So I think on that side there'll be some work. What I would say though is we've also noticed a trend where people like the idea of it being a pure human creation. I think this is what happens when you get these massive advances in technology. Sometimes you see a growth in the analog side of things as well. I mean, we've seen it with people loving buying vinyl records now, even though the quality is not as good. It's not as a medium, you can break them. It's all these sort of things, but people like the idea of a human creation. So I think within creative industries, we may well get that divide. I think there is going to be a growth of sort of AI created films, music, everything, but it will be sort of stamped, this is AI, versus the pure human creative will maybe attract a premium in the future, but for similar reasons. Because I do think with the creative sector, all these tools are working on what's already been fed in, so it's only going to spit out the same things once or another. It can't really make those iterations that a human mind can do. So it will be interesting to see. I think there is a genuine threat around sort of intellectual property, but I can anticipate that both the UK and abroad will start to legislate in this space there'll be some high profile litigation at some point.
I love the idea that everybody's going to go retro and human. There are lots of questions. So the lady in orange, do you have the mic? Yep. And then we'll go to the gentleman at the back.
Hi, I have a very basic question, which I hope other people might benefit from. I'm using ChatGPT more, my personal business life, and I keep hovering on whether I should stay free or I should go pay. And I keep going, do I, don't I? What's the benefit?
Very good.
Yeah, as I said, I'm a solopreneur, and yes, well, I'm not actually. I'm a scaler, and that is totally because of AI. I would start off with the ecosystem approach and a mindset for growth. But the first thing I want, my aim is to be bought out. So I would make sure your foundation is set up right. So paid allows you to do more. So for me, it allows me to have projects and having things organized, because sometimes I'll work with people and the chats are everywhere. So it allows you to streamline and have more efficiency because you're productive knowing where everything is. But yeah, go back.
Isn't there also a confidentiality issue that if you pay, they don't scan everything you're putting in?
That's a great point. That's a great point. But again, that's going back to your settings. That's making sure that your factory kind of checking that you've done, as you said. And also with Page, you can do things like scheduling, and you've got more capability for automation. Yeah.
I've just discovered projects. Oh my
It's
God.
amazing. I can show you mine after. You show me yours, I'll show you mine.
For anybody who works on their own or is a solo, or has a small team, it's just blow your mind reality of how you can actually get it to do repetitive tasks to a really high quality level without having to repeat all the prompts every time. So lots of learning. It's very exciting.
But also, if you haven't hit the limit yet, you probably don't need Pro.
But depending on what you want to do. So I use a lot of multimodal AI. So I'll use lots of media. I'll speak to it a lot, which gives it more capability and functionality. Unfortunately, you get limits to 5. So you're right. Capabilities of, you'll hit, I think it's depending on what your usage is. So you may want to audit your usage over a week and then ask it what are the differences between your level of account and paid. That's a great point.
Question for the panel. So there's so much froth about this topic.
What topic?
The whole AI topic. I'm interested from your point of view, in your experience of working with companies who are paying for your services.
Yeah.
How many of those companies are actually getting genuine business value out of scaling AI?
Okay, so
we'll take both of you.
Yeah. I'd like to say what I've found is lots of corporates that I'm working with at the moment are pessimistic. They don't know how to approach. There's so much bureaucracy, so they're limited in how quickly they can pivot. They're getting business value by experimentation and having a targeted business case. So I don't know if that answers. Sorry. They're getting results.
Importantly, they're not. So, I mean, I think they've probably got large numbers of people who are getting personal productivity value out of using tools.
Yeah.
But in terms of genuine, provable ROI, business value, cash money.
Yes, they are. I feel like you want to hear the opposite, but I'm telling you, yes. I'm being honest. So I think it depends on the organization. And I taught upstairs, one of the biggest things that I've seen that limits people is mindset. This isn't about AI. AI is simply a tool. Your phone is just like that. In fact, your phone has had an AI for years. It's dependent on how departments and people are talking to one another and implementing it. I can tell you right now, I'm working with businesses that have had 10 times their revenue by using AI. And I have as an SME. I hope that answers your question.
The only thing I'd add to this, I'm in the middle. Because I've seen some great examples where it has made a change. And I think one point I will pick up on, the personal productivity, whilst it might not hit business like KPIs and all right, you'd be surprised on a personal level. Like we had in one business, we shifted from Slack to Microsoft Teams. You would not believe the negative impact that had. And this is just a tool people just love Slack, they love the interface. Switching to Teams, ostensibly the exact same kind of tool, made a massive difference. Recently, we've got professional subscriptions to ChatGPT, which we can use for our personal life as well. Again, the little mindset switch on employees has been massive. But what I would say though is I think it totally depends how these companies use the tools. I've seen companies that think if they spend enough money on the new shiny tool, it will immediately increase productivity without necessarily addressing like underlying infrastructure. So I'd say we're probably beyond that point. And I think it's interesting. A lot of companies invested heavily, expecting, these massive results. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not probably because the technology itself is a failure. It's wider business.
For me, yeah.
Change management. Let's
Change,
keep going because we don't
yeah,
have much time.
yeah,
We got
yeah.
a lot of questions that I want to get to.
Yeah.
So go ahead, and then the lady in blue here in the front. Go ahead. End. Okay. I thought you delayed me a few minutes, so I thought I had a few minutes to catch up. But
Oh,
we'll
no.
take one last question,
Oh,
I'm
no.
afraid, and then speakers will be available. Sorry, the guy's got the mic. He's
So sorry. We'll be there. I promise.
Thank you. It's interesting discussion. My question is regarding environmental impact of AI.
Yeah.
I was reading about it, and it is huge. And obviously, human beings are also not doing so well. But with AI, we are making it more worse. So your views?
That is why I approached. That is my new invention. My innovation was the way I was using AI. I could see it, and I saw that it was happening, and that's why I approached the space agency. So just that I am helping the planet. Because I can see for every prompt that it's used energy, the data houses, the expansion. So I think that people need to be responsible. And when I spoke about building your rule book, ethical in use made me put in more robust prompts to get more firmer and tighter output. So I think it's about the bigger thing. For me, it isn't just AI, it's digital green. I am a certified digital green expert because I do believe I'm using digital more. It's not just AI, it's across the scope. What does your email signature look like? How many pixels are you using? It's far deeper than that. So yeah, that's my
Adam, last line on environmental, and then we're going to wrap.
It's a slightly depressing one. I agree. I think obviously that the pace of growth in this area is going to have an environmental impact. Somewhat cynically, it's sort of hidden for the most part. I mean, I know there's different trends within going green, and at the moment this kind of stays under the radar slightly. I expect that to change. I think people will start to scrutinize, especially at a corporation level, what the footprint is through perhaps unnecessary use of these technologies.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment it's staying a bit quiet, but the more people that talk about it, I think hopefully it will create some positive change.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm afraid we could go on all day. They do have workshops this afternoon. Katrina does upstairs. I hope you'll stay connected. What I'm taking from this for guidelines, name it, train it, green it,
Yeah.
and then check it. Good luck to all of you. We're on this together.